You'll notice in the latest update that Policy Tester is now Category and Policy Explorer. You can find it in the Quick Actions area of your Policy Settings page. Now we'll see how the Category and Policy Explorer works. Let's say your students are in a computer science class and want to start using Replit.com as a new coding tool. We'll do a search for Replit.com and you'll see how your policies will apply. You can see here we've searched for Replit.com and we see that Dynamic Web Filter has auto-categorized it based on the content of the site as an AI tool. Now, because Replit.com is going to be used by your computer science students for coding, you know that that's an accurate categorization. And you can see here that that category is applied differently depending on the policy. So for example, your user policy for Adam, who's one of the students, is allowed to use AI tools. So therefore, Adam's user policy allows him to use anything that falls under the category of AI tools. So therefore, Replit.com is allowed. But for your other students, let's say your elementary school students, their policy blocks things in the AI tools category. So therefore, Replit.com would be blocked. Let's say that you have a group policy that allows the high school students, so Patterson High School allows students to use AI tools, therefore that's allowed. But let's say that this is a tool that you know is going to be used across all the computer science classes and that you don't see any risk with marking this as an educational resource. That therefore it can be treated as an educational resource across all your policies. So even though this is a correct categorization of AI tools, because you want to leave access to all other AI tools blocked, you may decide that a more appropriate category for it to be used at your district is to call it an educational resource. So you would go to choose new category and you can recategorize it as an educational resource here. And now you'll see that the category is now educational resource and the category status for each of your policies has changed, right? So the penalty box is still blocked because it still blocks access to all the content. But the policies that previously blocked AI tools, because you'd like to keep those tools blocked, now that this is labeled and categorized as educational resource, all of the policies that allow educational resources allow Replit.com. So that's a good example of how you might use the Category and Policy Explorer for a particular use case. Since we know that this is accurately categorized as AI tools, I'm going to revert it back, and you can see here that now it reverts to blocked, except for those specific policies where we have allowed AI tools. So I can go ahead and save my changes, which is I had changed it away from that, and I can optionally leave feedback. So I want to keep this as an AI tool. So therefore, when you are creating your policies, you can still focus on those broad categories. And then when you have a site, a domain, or a URL that you want to explore, you can bring it into the Category and Policy Explorer, enter it in, see how the initial categorization, and then decide if you need a new category for your district. Now, the other thing I want to call out, you may have noticed that under the new choose a new category, there's additional categories here than what we had before. So you can pick those, and the policy behavior is still dictated by your existing policies. For example, if I go to my elementary policy here, I can see my policy configuration. I'm going to unclick that for now so you can see all the categories. And you can see here now that there are additional categories that are listed in terms of your content categories. So we have the educational section, which includes educational gaming. These are sites like Kahoot or Gimkit or other educational games that are often used in schools. Educational shopping, educational resources, health and wellness. And you can see that this top area is generally those that are always going to be allowed. Then we move into the general area. And these are things that you might adjust based on the specific policy that you are creating. For example, I'm in the elementary policy, so I'm going to block AI tools. I might leave access to news and entertainment, or I might choose to block it. I'm going to block social media. I'm going to allow video conferencing because let's say the students use Zoom sometimes, so we'll allow that. I'm going to still leave games blocked. I'm still going to leave online shopping, and I'm still going to leave streaming blocked. Now, these are in the general category. You may have some user level policies where maybe games are allowed if it's an esports club or a particular, if it's a time-based scheduled policy where maybe you allow games after school. So you may choose to unblock some of those during certain times. And then we have the high risk category. And these are categories that you generally want to always leave blocked. And so you have things like adult content, gambling, violence, etc., that you always want to leave blocked. And let's say I accidentally clicked here, I'm going to get a confirmation dialog that says, unblocking cyber threats may expose students to harmful content and could put your district out of SIPA compliance. Do you want to proceed? So this is another, oops, I accidentally clicked on that. No, I don't want to proceed. I'm going to cancel out of that and it stays blocked. So those are the changes that are introduced as far as the new policy, content categories, and then the Content and Policy Explorer.